So, of course, Vapu means the physical body of the spiritual master, and Vani means the words or the instructions of the spiritual master. Okay, so these are the two aspects of the spiritual master, and of course, as Prabhupada said, the most important are the words or instructions of the spiritual master. And here's some sadhu sangha, sarva sashtakoi, lavamatra sadhu sangha, sarva siddhi hoy. Means even a moment's association. A verdict of all revealed scriptures is that even by a moment's association with a pure devotee, one can attain all success. And during the Sunday Feast lecture, I'm going to talk about one example of that. And these are skits. We don't have to do any skits here. Another quote, "My dear Sanatan, although you are deliverer of the entire universe, and although even the demigods and great saints are purified by touching you, it is the characteristic of a devotee to observe and protect the Vaishnava etiquette." Vaishnava etiquette means interactions between different Vaishnavas, understanding how to deal with senior people, how to understand how to deal with junior people, is just manners, good manners, basically. Maintenance of the Vaishnava etiquette is the ornament of a devotee. If one transgresses the laws of etiquette, people make fun of him, and thus he is vanquished in both this world and in the next. By observing the etiquette, you have satisfied my mind. So, these are statements, of course, of Sanatan Goswami, and Sanatan Goswami observed such etiquette that he basically sacrificed. There's a whole story in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that he sacrificed his own, let's say, well-being by walking on hot sand, just so that he wouldn't disturb, when he had a disease, the pujaris who were serving Lord Jagannath. And he pleased Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very much by that. So we should inquire from the Guru. This is, of course, Bhagavad Gita, Tadvidi Pranipatena, Pariprashnena Sevaya Upadekshanti Te Jnanam Jnaninas Tattva Darshanaha. And the Bhagavad Gita tells us that we should learn the truth by approaching the spiritual master, inquire from him submissively, and render service unto him. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. So the way we get knowledge is not simply blessings. I know everybody is interested in blessings, Ashivat. I keep this hand up all the time just for that purpose. When devotees take a picture, they said, "Maharaj, put the hand up." One time a devotee, wasn't me, but one time one of the gurus put his hand up with a Western person to bless him, and the Western person thought he was doing high five. And so he walked up to the Guru and said, "Oh, high five, Jai, Guru Maharaj," And the Guru, being from India, didn't understand what was happening. He just... So, yeah. Anyway, we have to be careful when dealing with Western people, high five, So anyway, so with the way we get blessings is through the ears. It's not that you get blessings, you should be Krishna conscious. I bless you to be Krishna conscious, Adidev. He said, okay, don't have to do anything now. Gurudev said, I'm an incarnation, I'm basically. But you get your blessings, Guru Mukha Padma Bhaktya Chitete Kuriyakya, through the sound vibration. And it enters Bhavanti Vritkarna Rasayana Kata. It enters from the ear to the heart. And when you take it to the heart, then you automatically get spiritual realization. So that's the method of getting blessing. Blessings are the instructions, guidance, and words of the spiritual master. Prabhupada said the saffron dust particles of the lotus feet of the Lord are contained within the transcendental words coming from the bona fide guru. Those who listen to the Bhagavatam may put questions to the speaker in order to elicit the clear meaning, but this should not be done in a challenging spirit. One must submit questions with great regard to the speaker and the subject matter. That's how you inquire. This is also the way recommended in Bhagavad Gita. One must learn the transcendental subject matter by submissive oral reception from the right sources. Therefore, these sages, this is referring to the Bhagavatam first canto, the sages at Naimisharanya, who are addressing Sutta Goswami, and it was primarily Shonaka Rishi, with great respect. So, one must be Gigyasu, very much inquisitive, to learn from the bona fide spiritual master. The inquiries one makes should strictly pertain to transcendental science, Gigyasu Shaya Uttamam. The word Uttama refers to that which is above material knowledge. I mean, generally, you don't want to be inquiring from the spiritual master, who should I vote for in the next election? It should be something that's, something to do with spiritual knowledge. Of course, sometimes the guru is expert in a particular field, and you can ask him about that particular subject matter. But generally, it should be, how can I advance? Like Prabhupada said, the only question he ever asked his guru was, how can I serve you? Sometimes you get the devotees with these really weird questions, like, Guru Maharaj, is there snow in the spiritual world? What? And I was just looking at, on Facebook, I just happened to see a picture of one of the people sitting here, and she was enjoying in the snow for the first time, because she just came from Bengal, and she's never seen snow before in her life. Anyway, so she'll ask, Guru Maharaj, is there snow in the spiritual world? She asked you that question? And then, Guru Maharaj, is there pizza in the spiritual world too? I mean, these are questions, probably you don't generally ask the Guru those questions. You ask questions, how can I serve? So, that's the point. So, Guru Vani, Vani means words again. According to material vision, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Prabhupada passed away from the material world on the last day of December 1936. I still consider His Divine Grace to be always present with me by His Vani, His words. In other words, when you got spiritual relationships, there's no break in the relationship. I mean, we were just actually talking today about Krishna, Lord Chaitanya, and Lord Ram, how roughly their lives paralleled in terms of their relationship with their wives or girlfriends. Krishna left Vrindavan at 16, left the gopis bereft. Lord Ram sent Sita Devi away to Valmiki Muni's ashram. She wasn't 16, she was about 19 at that point. And then you have Lord Chaitanya took sannyas when his wife was 16. Vishnupriya, whose appearance day it is today. So you have all three of these things going on, and you're thinking, what kind of God is this? At least he should have stayed until he was 80. But, of course, Krishna in Dwarka stayed until he was 125. Then he arranged for all of his associates to kill each other. Anyway, that's another story in the Srimad Bhagavatam. But the point is, with spiritual relationships, there's no separation. Because there's love, there's hearing from the particular individual, remembering the particular individual. He or she is always with you. So we can say if someone is following Prabhupada, Prabhupada is with them. Whether you're a direct disciple of Prabhupada, initiated disciple of Prabhupada or not, Prabhupada is with you. He's manifesting his presence. You won't see him with your eyes generally, but that's not that important. Seeing someone through your ears is actually more important than seeing someone through your eyes. But we're a very visual culture, but in India the tradition was an oral culture, a hearing culture. That's how you associate. And the person is there. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, he reasons ill, says that Vaishnavas die when thou art living still in sound. So remember, Prabhupada is still living in sound. We don't say Prabhupada died. We said Prabhupada manifested, he left this world, his vapu, his form left this world. So he's always present in his words. And Prabhupada, and many devotees, whether initiated by Prabhupada or not, have dreams of Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada gives them instructions. They have a direct relationship with Prabhupada. Just like we have a direct relationship with Krishna. So Krishna was showing through these pastimes, like leaving Vrindavan at 16 and sending Sita Devi away, that the relationship was not broken. The relationship became more intense. Because when one serves in the mood of separation, the emotional intensity becomes further enhanced. And there's connection. In the material world, when we're separated from someone, we are separated from them. Someone is in the other part of the world, I may be thinking about them, there's no connection. But with Krishna, the spiritual master, it's a little bit different. The Bhagavad Gita, for example, is the Vani of Lord Krishna, although Krishna was personally present 5,000 years ago and is no longer physically present. From the materialistic point of view, the Bhagavad Gita continues. In other words, Krishna is still there in his words. It's an incarnation. And the Bhagavatam is considered to be the literary incarnation of Krishna. So Krishna is present in every word of the Gita and every word of the Bhagavatam. So as far as personal association with Guru is concerned, I was only with my Guru for 4 or 5 times. That's very little. It's not that Prabhupada had all these different stories to tell. But I've never left his association, not even for a moment, because I am following his instructions. And we said last week, we could see that Prabhupada followed his Guru's instructions more than any of the other disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, because he went to the West with no resources. There are some of my godbrothers here in India who have had constant personal connection or association with Guru Maharaj, but who are neglecting his orders. This is just like the bug who is sitting on the lap of a king. So, so like you have a bug, he's in personal touch with, a person, with the king or whoever. Let's say if a bug sits on my lap. Is he my intimate associate? No. So he may be very puffed up. Bugs aren't usually puffed up, but anyway. But someone may be very puffed up because they're physically close to the spiritual master by his position. But all he can succeed in doing is biting the king. Personal association is not so important as association through service. And Prabhupada showed that himself. Because Prabhupada was not physically, apparently, one of the most intimate associates of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, but actually, spiritually, he was. Separation, here's the separation, because please be happy in separation. I am separated from my Guru Maharaj since 1936, but I am always with him so long as I work according to his direction. So we should all work together for satisfying Lord Krishna, and in that way, the feelings of separation will transform into transcendental bliss. And that's Vani and Vapu Seva. Any questions about Vani and Vapu Seva? It's an important topic. There'll be some questions about that in the test. Questions?
I guess I was just going to ask the context of etiquette. Mm-hmm. When it says down here, one should not laugh in front of the Guru.
Unless the Guru tells a joke. And if the Guru tells a joke, you better laugh, or that's an offense. Yeah, I mean, obviously, Prabhupada told jokes. I was with Prabhupada one time, and there was a lady reporter who had a very short skirt, and she was asking Prabhupada, why do you have bald heads? And Prabhupada said, it's better to have a cool head and warm legs. And everyone started laughing. But, it has to be the right situation, laughing with the Guru, not so much at the Guru, so to speak. It's a matter of discrimination. It's not like a strict rule, because otherwise I'd be out of business. If nobody would laugh at anything I said, I'd be very unhappy. So
there was one thing that had caught my attention here. It says, he should not imitate the gait, activities, or voice of the spiritual master. And then sometimes you'll see like someone will be giving a class, and then all of a sudden they'll imitate Srila Prabhupada's voice, or...
Yeah, it's not... sometimes it'll happen inadvertently. When I chanted, like last week, it sounded like Prabhupada, but I wasn't imitating.
Right. So can you explain that so people understand?
Because it's just not proper to imitate a pure devotee. I mean, it's not the right etiquette. I mean, it's almost like a joke, like you see sometimes in politics. Of course, I recently from time to time, I've been watching this TV show, Saturday Night Live. I had to admit it, one of true confessions. But it's funny, because they're imitating certain political leaders who should remain nameless. And it's like, it's disrespectful. But it's all right in that case to be disrespectful. So it's actually disrespectful to imitate someone, how they act or something like that. Of course, sometimes it happens inadvertently that someone is listening to someone so much they begin to sound like them. But to imitate them is actually not good. So any other questions? Questions, comments? Otherwise, we can move ahead. And now we're going to talk about a very touchy subject called Guru Tyaga. So in other words, we're talking about not following a spiritual master blindly and observing or the spiritual master relationship to Srila Prabhupada. And as ISKCON is a large movement, we have had problems with people who have taken the responsibility of being gurus who weren't properly qualified. And as we said, the GBC doesn't rubber stamp a guru. And they showed some non-devotional principles and they had to be rejected. I mean, this is something that happens. And it's happened throughout Vaishnava history. It's not something new. It's not something just in the West. It's happened, our Vaishnava acharyas write about it, in fact. There's evidence like it's happened extensively in the past for a variety of reasons. Okay. Tyaga means to renounce. According to scriptural codes, a teacher who engages in an abominable action and has lost his sense of discrimination is fit to be abandoned. That's from Prabhupada's purport. I mean, let's take something from the Mahabharata. You had Dronacharya, for example. He was the martial arts guru, but guru of the Pandavas and Kurus, right? And so what did Arjuna have to do? Not only, he had to reject him as his guru. He had to reject his instructions because he was following the wrong path. So this happened. Even in the Mahabharata, you have such a situation like this. And Drishtadyumna, of course, cut off his head. And in order to conquer Dronacharya, they even had to lie. Everybody knows that story. Ashwatthama is dead. So here's an example of Guru, and Kripacharya, the same thing. So here's an example from the Mahabharata where they took bad association. He associated with Duryodhana and company. And as a result, they had to be rejected. And even, grandfather Bhishma, they didn't reject him as grandfather, but Arjuna basically had to fire all those arrows in him because he wasn't following the proper path. So it's also an example that through bad association, even one who's highly elevated, like Dronacharya, Kripacharya, or grandfather Bhishma, can be deviated. So what to speak of anyone else? So we have to be alert to this particular situation. Of course, it's not that we become such fault finders that if we see the guru watching Saturday Night Live, that means he's deviated. I mean, Prabhupada, there's an interesting story about Prabhupada, not that he watched Saturday Night Live, but Prabhupada was on a plane once with one of his assistants, and it was actually with Indradyumna Maharaj, and they got on a plane, and they were playing a movie on the plane. They used to play the movie on big screens instead of like little screens. And this devotee, he was just like chanting, reciting, reading the Bhagavad Gita, trying not to look at the movie. So Hare Krishna, Dehinosmin yata dehe komaram japanam jara tata deyantara swaptir. And he kept looking at Prabhupada, and Prabhupada was looking at the movie, and he was laughing. And he kept looking, and he looked up, and it was a Charlie Chaplin movie, something quite innocent. And Prabhupada was laughing. Prabhupada liked to watch Charlie Chaplin movies when he was a kid. And so this devotee got real bewildered, and he wanted to ask Prabhupada, why did you watch the movie? And then, but he didn't. He went to Prabhupada's assistant and convinced him to ask, because he was afraid Prabhupada was going to get angry with him for asking. So yeah, the assistant asked Prabhupada, and Prabhupada said, it's just an innocent thing, So it's not that if the guru watches the Charlie Chaplin movie or Star Wars or something like that, he's unqualified. So you have to be intelligent in this regard, because like Prabhupada, he did like Charlie Chaplin. And Prabhupada sometimes told stories from Charlie Chaplin. He told about the one story in one movie that Charlie Chaplin, somehow or other, he sat down and he tore his coattails. He was wearing a tuxedo. He tore it a little bit, and then he went into the bathroom, so it was torn, so he tore it all the way. He tore it all the way up to the top, so it was in two pieces. And then he went out to dance. And then while he was dancing, everyone was seeing that, and they thought it was the new style, so they all went to the bathroom and tore their own tuxedos. So Prabhupada, would sometimes use material examples to make points. Like Prabhupada was making the point that we should set a new style, Sikhs or something like that. I mean, Prabhupada was very funny. Like devotees, sometimes they were embarrassed. Oh, we have to wear these clothes and everything like that, or wear Sikhs. And then Prabhupada was in Vrindavan, and then this is an amazing story. Then he pointed out to the people who are passing stool in the field. He said, they're not worried about reputation. So what are you worried about? It's just like, so Prabhupada was extremely humorous sometimes. And, he would tell different jokes, especially these Gopal Band jokes that were really funny, which we don't have time to tell. But anyway, so according to the spiritual master is liable to be rejected. So we have, you have to apply this with intelligence. Principles and procedures of Guru Talk. If the Guru becomes attached to sense gratification, in other words, breaking the principles, speaking something that goes against the Siddhanta, loses his sense of duty, follows a degraded path, a path that, other than devotional service of the Lord, he should be rejected. And this is from the Mahabharata. So this is not a new thing. That's from the Udyoga Parv in the Mahabharata. And there's a procedure to lodge complaints. First of all, one goes to one's temple authorities, says that my guru's watching Saturday Night Live, what should I do? So anyway, not really. These you don't need to complain about that, because the temple president will probably be watching it also. So with the guru. So sorry about that, Mother Krishna. So when it goes, one's temple's authorities, one's Siksha gurus, there's an etiquette. It's not that you go immediately on Facebook and say, here's a picture of my guru surfing or something like that, or swimming. Actually, nowadays, people think it's cool to have a picture of their guru swimming. So ISKCON Resolve, ISKCON Resolve is an organization within ISKCON. When we have some conflicts or problems, rather than deal with it in a legalistic way, it can resolve conflicts between devotees and between people, which is nice. It's mediation, arbitration, stuff like that you have in the business field. We even have, it's called ADR, Alternative Dispute Resolution, and we even have an ombudsperson. For those who work in the business field, you know what an ombudsman is. That one who is able to hear complaints in a confidential way to the management. So, in other words, you deal with these things confidentially. So, if a guru is engaged in sense gratification, violating one of the more regulated principles, but there's hope he can be rectified, then his disciples should not reject him, but should allow time for such rectification to take place, and they should take shelter of Srila Prabhupada and senior devotees as Siksha gurus. So, it's called Guru Chaga. They should always remember me by my teachings, and we shall always be together. Just like I've written in the first publication of Srimad Bhagavatam, the spiritual master lives forever by his instructions, and the disciple lives with him. Because I have always served my Guru Maharaj and followed his teachings, I am now never separated from him. So any questions about this Guru Tyaga point? Someone must have some questions. Yes, Rishikesh.
What does it exactly mean that, I'm never separated from my Guru Maharaj and I follow instructions? It's kind of a big difference. Can you explain a little?
Well, it's something that you have to experience. It's like saying, what is the taste of sugar? How can I explain it to you? It's you're really with the person. I mean, it's 100%. You're connected. Like, how do you know when the electricity is connected to the light bulb? It's light. It gives off light. So it's an experiential thing, as Krishna says in the Gita. Pratyaksha Bhagamam Dharmyam Shushukam Kartamaviyam. And that means, that's from the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Raja Vidya, Raja Guyam, Pavicham, Paramam Pavo. So that it's direct experience. This Krishna consciousness is the most secret of all secrets, most elevated thing, because it gives direct perception. You know that verse? Why'd you do that? Raja Vidya. Translation? He's my guru.
This knowledge is the king of education, the most secrets of all secrets. It's the purest knowledge, and that it gives self-realization to the self by realization. It is the purest knowledge, and it's everlasting, and it's joyfully performed.
Haribol. Haribol. So, in other words, pratyaksha, aksha means eyes, and pratyaksha means directly seen. So one directly experiences its realization. How to explain what realization is? You got to experience realization. Realization is realization. There's jnana and vijnana. Jnana means the knowledge. Realization means the experience, the full experience. And that's what happens. You're never separated from the bona fide guru when one is absorbed in the service and remembering the instructions. And that was what Prabhupada meant. Any other questions or comments? Yes, addition to Ryan.
I have the last few slides about mental visit to Guru. My question is because many times the disciple may not understand the activities of the Guru. So is it the duty of the disciple to just wait until the temple authorities actually explain, or should the disciple directly go? How is that procedure?
Well, what do you mean by not understanding the activities of the guru? I mean,
it has, how you mentioned, there may be some sense gratification, which is not like serious thing, but the disciple things like that. So
well,
when do you actually,
then present it to the older devotees like that. How can the guru watch Saturday Night Live? There may be some interest in politics. Anyway, Mahabharata. How can the guru watch the Mahabharata? It's too much killing there. Anyway, so there's some question in someone's mind. That's what we have senior devotees. We have a whole society here, and that protects us. The society protects us in all circumstances. One may have some question about something Srila Prabhupada said, or something the guru said, and then you just have to talk to the senior devotees. I mean, devotees who you trust, but should not be public. The whole point I was making, it shouldn't be public on the internet or Facebook or with someone who you know to be hypercritical. I mean, there are people in every society who her whole life is just dedicated to criticizing others. I mean, there was one in Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement. His name was Ramchandra Puri. And he was actually connected to Lord Chaitanya. He was a godbrother of Lord Chaitanya's spiritual master. So according to etiquette, he was supposed to be worshipped, on the same level, or not worshipped, but respected on the same level as Guru. But this particular individual, he was so dedicated to criticizing others that he would keep feeding someone, insisting that they eat more and more and more. And then, when they ate more and more and more, he criticized them for being gluttonous, eating too much. Like he'd take a sannyasi and he'd feed, "Oh, Maharaj, eat more, eat more." I've seen that happen. "Eat more, eat more. Oh, you love this, you must eat." I said, "Maharaj, you eat like a pig. You're not qualified to be a sannyasi." That's what this guy did. It's in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. I'm not making this up. So anyway, so he saw Lord Chaitanya eating. He said, "Lord Chaitanya eats too much." So Lord Chaitanya reduced his eating. Then he said, "Lord Chaitanya eats too little." He saw ants crawling inside Lord Chaitanya's room, and he said, "Lord Chaitanya's eating sweets." And this way, he just criticized everybody, even his own guru. He criticized when his guru was leaving his body and remembering Krishna in separation. He says, "Guru Maharaj, just remember Brahman instead of remembering Krishna." And the Guru Maharaj said, "Get the hell out of here," to his disciple. That was the last instruction that this individual ever had from his spiritual master. "I don't want to see your face anymore." And so, but Lord Chaitanya respected him, gave him external respect, but didn't follow him. So, but he didn't go around criticizing. When other devotees criticized this devotee, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu refused to criticize him. It was very interesting. Even though this devotee had dedicated his whole life to criticizing, Lord Chaitanya didn't fall in the same trap. So we have to be very careful because, there's a lot in our culture, everyone's culture here, that we like to find fault. This is like the mosquitoes or the flies who are looking for sores. Aha, I caught him. He watches Saturday Night Live. I'll probably read about this on the internet tomorrow. But I don't care. My life is an open book. I don't care what you think about it. And I'll tell you what I do, what I don't do. But anyway, so that's our culture. There's rumor. Isn't it? Everyone's so concerned about reputation, but we're so enthusiastic to ruin someone else's reputation. So it's a problem. And so, yes, everything has to be done with the proper etiquette. Important. And if you see something that's questionable, yes, that's your right. You can approach different, people whom you trust. Guyam agyati prichati. Guyam means secret. That's another verse, another word from the Gita. Rajavidya, Rajaguyam. It's the most secret of all secrets. So we approach people confidentially. That's life. If anyone's having problems, not only Guru, like if I see someone having problems, then I'll approach them. I said, I see that you're struggling in Krishna consciousness. Not in class. I won't say, I see, Ayush, you're struggling in Krishna consciousness. I can smell cigarettes on your breath, Ayush. I wouldn't do that to him. I was just teasing. But I wouldn't do that to anybody. If I smelled cigarettes on their breath, I would just say, "Can I speak to you, privately?" And deal with it privately. That's etiquette. You don't deal with someone's problems publicly. That's the first thing. Whether they're gurus, whether they're whatever position they have. It's all a very private thing. So, any other questions about? Yes.
I have like one thought or question that might be something that people might be wondering. So, is it also something that's not black and white? Like, can one, have to, offer respects, but at the same time have to keep some distance?
Yes. Yeah, when you use the question, the whole point is discrimination. There's no set of rules I can give you, like if someone says this, do this. It requires some intelligence and discrimination and etiquette, and keep it confidential. Like one time when Prabhupada was present, one sannyasi had some problems, and this other devotee broadcast it all over. There wasn't the internet, but somehow or other, there's the ISKCON grapevine, You know what a grapevine is? No, you don't know what a grapevine. That means like gossip mill. So he broadcast it everywhere. This sannyasi has had problems. And Prabhupada, instead of chastising the sannyasi who had problems, he chastised the person who had spoken about it publicly. He said, you have made it impossible for him to return now. So Prabhupada was more angry with the person who had broadcast the information than he was with the person who had the problem. So we have to be compassionate. You know, just like when people are learning how to walk, it's not that, let's say, little kids learning how to walk and he Jai, Radhika Ki Jai. And then everybody, when they're learning how to walk, they fall down a few times, right? You don't broadcast on the internet, little Bobby fell down today and smashed his nose. I don't think he'll ever learn how to walk. It's hopeless. So I think with dealing with devotees, we have to be kind. Everybody who comes to Krishna, anybody who chants Hare Krishna even once, we offer respects in the mind. Try to remember that. That's the nectar of instruction. That we offer respects to the mind, even if in the mind, sorry, not to the mind, in the mind to someone, even if they chant Hare Krishna one time, even if the rest of their life is useless. So that's, what is that? Amanina, Manadena, Kirtanidas Sadhara. That's Lord Chaitanya's teaching. If you want to chant Hare Krishna nicely, he says, you have to be devoid of any desire for respect for yourself and ready to offer respect to everyone else. And that means if someone has trouble, don't become happy. And we find people become happy seeing faults in others. They just say, oh, look at that. Like Prabhupada gave the example, there was one man who was appointed as Supreme Court judge, and Prabhupada said, you can criticize, you could say, well, he may be the Supreme Court judge, but he's not making any money. You know, anyway, so there's always a way to minimize people. So don't do that. We should feel happy with everyone's spiritual advancement and compassionate if someone is having some struggle or trouble in Krishna consciousness. So I think we have to get on to be able to complete this by 4 o'clock when the kirtan is. So presenting Prabhupada. So when we instruct new people to take shelter of Prabhupada and to receive guidance, training, and assistance from those who are practically and directly instructing them in Krishna consciousness. The reason for that is sometimes you find that local people in the temple are directly instructing and guiding people in Krishna consciousness, and the people are saying, I'm not going to pay attention to you, I'm just going to pay attention to the Guru. But the people who are local are actually giving most of the instructions in Krishna consciousness, most of the guidance. ISKCON members shall choose when and from whom they wish to take initiation. They most focus their attention on Prabhupada as the founder, acharya, and preeminent Shiksha Guru. And here's a quote: one should hide one's Ishtadev, one should hide one's Guru, and one should hide one's mantra, and one should hide one's japa mala. In other words, it's not that you take your Guru and stick him in a room, you know, and hide him, but at least these internal, let's say, relationship you have with your Guru, with your internal realization, you don't just broadcast it. You don't say, yesterday I saw a Krishna. And this is something very private. So you know that someone is not advanced when they're actually broadcasting their own realization, their own internal feelings, because that means that they're interested in getting appreciation or proper adoration, distinction from others. So an advanced devotee, that's from the Hari Bhakti Vilas by Sanatana Goswami. So there's some skits. All right, instead of a skit, let me ask you a question. Can someone give me an example of how would be an inappropriate way of presenting your particular Guru? What? T-shirt, that's good. I mean, T-shirt, buttons, tattoos. My Guru on my tattoo, you know. People love tattoos nowadays. And when I was young, nobody had tattoos. Now the young people, they all have to have these tattoos all over their body. We had one devotee who joined the movement. There was not only tattoos, but a ring on their tongue. And what did I ask them? Do you remember? How do you eat spaghetti? With a ring, you know, because the spaghetti gets old for old. Anyway, so, you know, Guru hats, Guru big posters as big as the dome, you know. Mahaguru come to town. So, any other inappropriate ways of presenting one's guru? Someone can think of. Yes? Yeah, I mean, having a Vyas Puja that people are forced to come to, public place that people can't avoid. And the only time when you can actually present, not your guru as a guru, but present someone publicly is when you're doing a big public program, obviously. You can have a picture of so-and-so Maharaj or so-and-so Prabhu is giving the lecture. And you can also say he's an ISKCON guru or whatever. But you can't say Om Vishnupad Paramahansa, whatever, in front of his name, unless it's Prabhupada, of course. So that's... so disciples of ISKCON Diksha Gurus should not wear or publicly display guru t-shirts. I mean, I don't even like people wearing Prabhupada t-shirts because it's an offense. Prabhupada is present in his picture. I mean, one of the things we learned, Prabhupada emphasized, is that the guru is present in his picture. And what do you do with your t-shirt after he gets, well, even when you're wearing it, you sweat. Do you want to sweat on Prabhupada? The guru is present. And then what do you do with your t-shirt when it gets dirty? What? Well, at least you know your guru is clean at that point. So, no, that's the Tide Challenge. So, no, because you're washing with so many other things that we can't even mention with your socks. So can you imagine? What would someone do? You put your socks on top of a picture of Prabhupada. But when you put them in the washing machine, you're doing that. The socks are going on top of Prabhupada. So we have to understand that the guru and the Vaishnavas, all Vaishnavas, they're present in their picture. So the picture is something to be respected, not to be plastered all over your clothes. And you can put them on your watch, so guru can tell you the time. Anyway, no, that's just a joke. That's a joke. I mean, when I was young, people had these Mickey Mouse watches. You know about that? Yeah, so we shouldn't do that to the guru. It should be a private thing. You notice I'm not wearing any Prabhupada paraphernalia. Prabhupada did have a picture of his guru on his bead bag because that can be respected. But in ISKCON, we generally shouldn't do that because it promotes a particular guru. We can put Prabhupada. And notice I just have a plain bead bag. Sometimes people have pictures of Krishna on the bead bag. I generally tend to stay away from pictures of Krishna or Guru that are worn or put on something else, or I may put it down like this. I mean, this has nothing to do with the course, but I also don't wear a Harinam Chadar for that reason, because sometimes when you have a Harinam Chadar, you're going to if you're not careful, you're going to put the Chadar on the floor and sit on the Chadar. And then you're sitting on Harinam, which is also an offense. Just the main thing is to be understanding that the Vaishnava and the holy names and the Shastras are non-different from their representation. Like the book. We wouldn't take the book and put it on the floor, so the same thing with the Guru's picture. So that's an important point to understand. But especially we don't, other than, we wouldn't put anybody's picture on an athletic cap. I don't know where that came from. Athletic cap. Of course, sometimes you put Jagannath when you have Rath Yatra, right? I don't know. But be careful, don't wash the cap with everything else. ISKCON temple residents maybe keep photographs of their ISKCON and Siksha and Diksha Gurus privately in their ashram quarters, but are not to display them publicly on ISKCON premises. Promoting occasional, which is I talked about, special preaching events may be an exception. Websites should feature a picture of Srila Prabhupada. So on all websites of ISKCON gurus, there should be a big picture of Prabhupada in a prominent place saying the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. These are just methods to keep the society together. It is not enough to repeatedly advertise that one is a devotee of Mahaprabhu by saying, I am Gauras, I am Gauras. Rather, those who follow the practices taught by Mahaprabhu are understood to get the results of being the Lord's follower. So, you have many people who just say, Prabhupada, 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 but they don't do what Prabhupada would want them to do. So you have to see what Prabhupada would want. Those are the real followers. He who follows the order of the Guru is the real follower. And actually, even the Christian scriptures, you have Lord Jesus Christ saying, many will come in my name, but they are not of me. In other words, many will say, oh, I'm a follower of Jesus Christ, but they don't. Because to follow means to follow the instructions. So any questions about that before we move ahead? We're almost finished now. Pretty good. Questions? Okay. Haribol. To the microphone. 59. Yeah, one should hide. That basically means one's relationship with Krishna. Let's say you're feeling great emotions, and let's say theoretically, I realized my relationship with Krishna, that I was a tree in Vrindavan or a cow, and I'm feeling this emotion. Oh, I'm feeling quivering in my body. I'm feeling this and that. That's what I should hide. To speak about Krishna and glorify Krishna, that's another thing. But to hide one's specific relationship with Krishna, and that's really important. One specific emotional, I would say more of one's emotional exchange with Krishna. It's a very private thing. It's like, one's husband or one's wife, that it's not that you hide them from everybody. It's not that you say, someone says, who's your wife? I don't know. What's her name? You can't say that, but you don't say, isn't she pretty today? Isn't whatever. Is that nice jewelry she has on? You can say that about the deities, of course. And, I really love her, and she cooks really nicely, and that's how she won my heart, by cooking nicely. Anyway, there's certain private things you don't want to talk about. It's a matter of discrimination. Obviously, if someone asks you who your guru is, you don't say, can't tell you, it's a secret. You should be proud. My guru is so-and-so pod. I know. And then you can, but not specifically like Prabhupada, as I said before when he was asked the question, do you ever feel intense separation from your spiritual master? Prabhupada said, that question you don't need to ask. So that's like a deep mood, a deep relationship question. Okay, good question. Who else? Okay, good. Yeah. What should we do? What? What should we do with the old calendars? You can frame the pictures, or, not to put them in the ordinary garbage. When I first joined the movement, we had this thing called sacred throwaway, which was, we would put people, sometimes, we would bury things. Of course, you can't do that nowadays, because you'd be digging up your yard, or we'd burn it. You can't do that nowadays. Sometimes I just wrap everything separately so it's not exposed to the rest of the garbage. That's the sacred throwaway. If I'm throwing, because obviously sometimes things accumulate. You have so much stuff you can't really deal with. The pictures in the calendar are quite beautiful, and they can be. You took the pictures. That's it. Haribol. And so, in addition to Ryan Prabhu, arranged for the printing of the calendars, and they're quite nice. So you can frame them, or, if you have to, if they become frayed or something like that, wrap them in something else so they're not just thrown in the, let's say, exposed to everything else in the garbage. Eventually, I guess they go in the landfill or something like that, or sometimes they're burned in an incinerator, or sometimes recycled. But we try to treat them differently. When I first joined, we had a different garbage pail for sacred throwaway, like incense and things like that. We still do. Here at the temple, we still do. Yeah.
One practical thing also that can be done with the pictures, if you know someone that, like has children or works with children and likes to do collages and different things that sometimes crafts, people are happy to have the pictures and then they'll make like a board with them and, the cards. And so sometimes it just takes finding someone that wants to make something from them, do something.
Sometimes, and sometimes we do have to throw things away. So any other questions? Quick. Yes, Hare Krishna.
What is the significance of first initiation and second initiation?
Oh, very good. First initiation is sufficient to bring one to Krishna Loka. So it's not mandatory. First initiation is called Harinam initiation, in which one is taking one's vows. It makes the connection to the sampradaya and the spiritual master. It's like, sometimes I compare it to the marriage. The people get married to formalize their relationship in the eyes of God. And so that's the same thing with initiation. You formalize that. Of course, you can follow the 4 regulated principles before you get initiated. Hopefully you do. And chant 16 rounds before you do. These are all called preparatory or purischarya in Sanskrit. But it formalizes, and in one's mind, it fixes one's determination. It's like a sankalpa. It's like any of the reformatory ceremonies that we have. Initiation, it's a requirement. And first initiation. Second initiation is called Brahman or Gayatri initiation, where traditionally it's for one who has Brahminical tendencies. Not that everybody has Brahminical tendencies. You can go back to Godhead without Brahminical tendencies. Someone can be a Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, whatever, and go back to Godhead. The main thing is to take shelter in the holy name. And second initiation is chanting of the Gayatri mantra specifically for worshiping the deity, because that's a requirement to worship the deities. But first initiation is all that's required to go back to the spiritual world, because it's the holy name. The holy name, what is it? Is Kalo Nishteva 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 Gatiranyata Harinam 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 Eva Kevalam. That's from the Brihad Naradiya Purana. That there is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way other than chanting the Lord's holy names. So by the mercy of the spiritual master and the Sampradaya, we're able to overcome the offenses in chanting and chant perfectly. So, thank you for the question. Yes, another question. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Plans a long vacation plans. It becomes difficult to support so they have it becomes difficult too much animal vacations. So how does one manage this?
That's an interesting question. I'll tell you some funny stories if I have time about this. So I used to go on traveling Sankirtan for a long time, and originally, I think I mentioned this last week. Originally, we would just buy stuff in the supermarket, like bread and everything like that, and just put the bag to our heads and say, Shri Vishnu, and consider it often. But then we found our consciousness going down, so we began to cook in the van, which was kind of a challenge, as the van's moving, cooking in the van. So what I eventually did when I was traveling, this is kind of funny, is that I would put all the vegetables and everything together in a heat-proof container and put it on the engine and drive, and the engine would heat it, and I'd have a whole casserole by the time I drove about 50 miles. Anyway, so I'm not suggesting that, but I said that as a humorous thing, but I did that. Mother Krishna Priya will tell you I did that. I definitely did that. So that's an interesting question. What I do when I travel now is I take a little cooker with me, and I cook. And that may be too hard if you're traveling with your family. And I would just be careful about what you eat, and don't make it a regular thing. So go to the restaurant and say you don't take onion and garlic. I found the restaurants now are quite flexible. I mean, I don't generally go to restaurants, but when I have to go visit my mother or something like that, that's when I would go. And I just mentioned, this is what I take. And they actually make arrangements. Nowadays, there's a lot of arrangements that people make for vegetarians. Do the best you can. Do the best. Krishna understands and do the... I wouldn't take onions and garlic. I would at the restaurants, I would tell people, just don't put onions and garlic. And there's a way, if you think outside the box, I mean, of course, I don't know your particular situation, but there's a way around everything. There's a way around everything, but you got to think, thinking outside the box means doing something you wouldn't ordinarily think of. I mean, at certain circumstances, I cooked whole meals. I mean, this is recently when I was traveling in India. I cooked whole meals in a coffee pot. One of these, a teapot. Things that heats water. I put quinoa. I threw quinoa in it. I threw vegetables, carrots, and everything like that. This was at a GBC meeting, so anyway, because they wouldn't. I have a certain diet that even goes beyond what we were talking about, because I don't eat milk. I don't take milk products. I don't take salt. I don't take so many things. So I would just make everything myself inside a teapot, and I was enjoying life like it. Rice cooker. A rice cooker works better. Prabhupada had a 3-tiered cooker. Anyway, that use your discrimination. That's all I'm saying. And I'm not going to, I can't give specific instructions on these things, but use your discrimination. I've never been on a long cruise ship, though. But I would assume nowadays they make so much arrangement for vegetarians. I mean, that's been my experience whenever I've gone somewhere. That if you say, "Oh yes, vegetarian," and they ask me questions too. One thing I experienced: the waiter starts to ask me questions about Krishna consciousness, and then I have someone to preach to, which is even better. They say, "Oh, why are you vegetarian? How long have you been vegetarian?" And I explain health reasons, and I explain spiritual reasons. Wow, I mean, it becomes a preaching opportunity. So that's up to you. I think we have to move ahead because we only have a few minutes. So let's talk about discrimination. Now, not discrimination in terms of being prejudiced against someone, but discrimination in terms of our congenial, reciprocal relationships with each other and working together, as Prabhupada said. Cooperation is bhakti. Remember the beginning, last week we talked about cooperation is bhakti. That's Prabhupada's quote. So these are all different things. So the point is that Prabhupada wanted our cooperation, and that Prabhupada said, by working together we can do miracles. And this is one quote. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself wanted our cooperation. He is God, Krishna, and therefore cooperation is a very important thing. Nobody should think that I've gotten so great ability I can do. No, it is simply by cooperation we can do a very big thing. United we stand, divided we fall. This is ours. So be strong in pushing on Krishna consciousness, and Krishna will help. He is the strongest. Still, we must be united together. So Prabhupada previously, and I quote, was talking about the Prachetas, who, because they cooperated with each other in loving relationships, Lord Shiva was very pleased with them. And so here you see a picture. This is a picture of many of us. I'm not in that picture. That's in Germany many, many years ago at the Schloss Rettershof, of all the devotees working together to please Prabhupada. And that was a short one. Anybody have any questions about cooperation? Cooperation means that sometimes we have to put aside our own interests for the interests of the greater good. And that's what Prabhupada did in many ways. For the interest, he put aside even his own spiritual interests in terms of living in Vrindavan to carry out the mission of his spiritual master. And Prabhupada was always ready to cooperate with his godbrothers, but his godbrothers didn't want to join his mission. So Prabhupada didn't, let's say, leave his guru's mission, but he carried forth his guru's mission, and his godbrothers basically, we saw in a previous slide last week, his godbrothers didn't want to work with him. So, here we go. This is just a wind up, and we're all finished. And then we can take more questions. Pretty good. Moving ahead. After this, we'll take more questions. We'll have time. And also during the Sunday Feast program, we'll have questions and answers about all these things. We're going to do a complete overview during the Sunday Feast program of everything we learned, as quickly as I can do it without blurring everything. So Unit 1 was the introduction, theory and context, the welcome introduction. Then we talked about Guru Tattva. Prabhupada, the founder Acharya, is reviewing ISKCON gurus, establishing the relationship with the guru, picking the guru, worshiping the guru, selecting a guru, taking the initiation vows, and acting in relationship with the guru, guru puja, worshiping the guru, formal worship, serving the guru, the difference between the form and the body or instructions of the guru. Of course, the form of the guru is here temporarily, but eternally we're serving the instructions of the spiritual master. That's the important thing. And Prabhupada said that's much more important. And when to renounce the guru, and working cooperatively to fulfill the relationship with the guru, presenting one's guru, relationships within ISKCON. And here's some quotes from Prabhupada. One must be serious to understand. He must approach a qualified Mahatma Guru. Then his business will be transaction, will be very nicely done. This is Vedic process. If the transaction is perfect from both sides, from the disciple's side and the guru's side, then Krishna consciousness is very, very easy. And that's the last slide. So now we have time for questions. We have about 12 minutes. Yes, we have about the whole course.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Haribol.
Maharaj, what are the qualities of disciple that Guru is most pleased with? And what are the qualities of a disciple that Guru is displeased with?
The quality that a guru is most pleased with is that the disciple likes to hear. Actually, you can see that with Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada was with his spiritual master just 3 or 4 times, as he explained. And one time he was with his spiritual master in Braj, and there was a tour of Braj, and all the devotees were going to see a particular deity, Shira, whatever, I forget the name of the deity. Not Shirachora Gopinath, it was, it was in Vrindavan. Anyway, it was a deity of Krishna, Lord Vishnu, with all the universe, anyway, I forget the name of the deity, it's not important. But everybody was going to see this deity, and except for Prabhupada, and Prabhupada stayed back to hear from his guru. He was only one of 2 or 3 people who stayed back. And Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said about Prabhupada, I've marked him, he likes to hear. So I think that is the most important quality, because if one likes to hear, then everything follows from the hearing. And on the other hand, what the guru doesn't like, disciple doesn't like to hear. Anyway, a disciple who has, let's say, is offensive to other Vaishnavas. I mean, it's not only, the guru is not only concerned with his relationship with the disciple, but he's concerned with the disciple advancing the spiritual life. You try to understand, the guru's whole consciousness in relationship to the disciple is he wants the disciple to be Krishna conscious. He's not thinking the disciple is meant for my pleasure or my service or anything like that. So anything the disciple does to impede his own spiritual growth, then the guru doesn't like that. Such as criticizing other Vaishnavas, or not chanting, or doing something that's counterproductive for Krishna consciousness, or disobeying the order of the spiritual master. But it's all based on compassion. The guru, from the guru's point of view, it's all based on compassion. Okay. So, you have a question? Go ahead.
So, Gurudev, in the meanwhile of the class, I think the last week you said that our Siksha hearing should be from ISKCON authority, as in ISKCON.
Yeah, people connected to ISKCON.
Connected to Srila Prabhupada. So, what if a person has been hearing from a particular acharya who is part of ISKCON for a pretty long time of his life, and
Yeah.
then for some reason that particular person has been not part of ISKCON anymore, but this still disciple has got a lot of emotional attachment to that
Yeah, that's
particular
fine.
guru. In
Yeah.
that case, it's very difficult to just the moment that since he's not part of ISKCON, I'm not going to hear from him.
No. You because the primary source of judgment should be based on Prabhupada, because what makes the guru is that he's connected to his spiritual master. So if someone's disobeying the order of his spiritual master, he's not connected anymore. Things he said before might have been fine when he was connected, but that's really what makes a bona fide guru a guru, is that he obeys the order of his spiritual master. Like if I say I'm a bona fide guru, but let's say just in my own case, let's say I'm leaving ISKCON, but I'm still a bona fide guru, but I've disobeyed Prabhupada's primary instruction. For me, I think mathematically, logically, Prabhupada's primary instruction was to remain, serve his mission. And Prabhupada said there'll be so many troubles. In any organization, there are going to be so many troubles, challenges, problems, criticisms. And I hear Prabhupada say, you should always serve. So I take my instructions from Prabhupada, and that's what connects me to Prabhupada. There's a lot of things I might like to do. I gave you the example, I think it was last week, that I would like to retire and just go to Govardhan and just chant and say goodbye, cruel world, and not have to deal. I like preaching like I'm doing now. I really like it, but all the management, worried about renovating the temple, and then we have to worry about the finances of the temple. And not only this temple, I'm worried about temples in Fiji. I'm worried about temples, that I'm responsible for. I'm worried about. I have to go to a GBC meeting and sit through 10 days of management meetings, where they criticize you if you look at your mobile phone for a second, but I'd sneak it under my dhoti so I can do that. So, it's not, if I have to choose at this stage of life, I'm 69, going to be 69, that the exact service I'd like to do for Krishna, it's not exactly that. But I can hear Prabhupada's words say, do it. So then I choose to follow Prabhupada's words. So that's what makes a disciple a disciple. And because of that, then I have more attraction to Govardhan, which is interesting. Does that make sense? Because I'm following or attempting to follow Prabhupada's directions. So one should judge a guru by how dedicated he is to following his previous acharya's directions. That's a standard of judgment. That's how we judge Prabhupada. Because Prabhupada, all of his godbrothers, Prabhupada was the one who took that order of his spiritual master as his life and soul, risked his life, his very life and his happiness and his everything he risked just to satisfy his guru because of the order of his guru. And many other people had that same instruction. Prabhupada was the one who took it as his life and soul. So that is, to me, that's objective, because my background is science, mathematics, physics, and everything like that. So I like to think objectively, black and white. And, there's all sorts of shades of gray, too. We're not criticizing anybody who's done anything. But in my mind, Prabhupada is saying to me, stay and serve his mission. This is his mission. That's what Prabhupada is saying to me. So, but, certainly we respect all Vaishnavas, and they're all great. And Prabhupada said all of his godbrothers are going back to Godhead. Prabhupada actually said that all his godbrothers are going back to Godhead, so we respect them. They're all great Vaishnavas. As far as my individual focus is concerned, it's serving Prabhupada's mission, and that's my standard. Yeah.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Haribol.
On Maharaj, on page 13, it's written, unless one is initiated, all his devotional activities are useless. A person who is not properly initiated can descend again into the animal species. Could you please elaborate on that?
Okay, so the word initiation is interesting. Can be used in different ways. It can refer to the formal initiation that one takes, with the fire sacrifice and everything like that. But Prabhupada also said that if one who accepts him and accepts, the Maha Mantra is actually in one sense initiated. Prabhupada said that in regard to George Harrison. You may have heard of George Harrison. He was a famous beetle, not one of your bugs, but anyway. And he never took initiation. He asked Prabhupada, you want me to shave my head, become a devotee, join the temple, take initiation? And Prabhupada said, continue as you are. You're doing what you're doing for Krishna. So if once one accepts the Maha Mantra and accepts Krishna consciousness in that way, then at that point, in one sense, they've achieved that particular status. Now, it's necessary for most people, like some people, well, let's go a little further back. There's this process called Kripa Siddhi, that sometimes the guru will give someone some special mercy like George Harrison had. But normally for most people, it's something called Sadhan Siddhi. Sadhan Siddhi means you got to follow the regular process. But anybody who hears from Prabhupada, who hears the holy name once, actually gets liberated. So in that sense, that's the larger sense of the word initiation. But to go back to home, back to Godhead, one requires the formal initiation. So thank you for asking that, because it's important to unpack that particular statement from the Hari Bhakti Vilas.